Okay.
Good. Right, so we're live streaming. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, assalamu alaikum. Good evening, good night, or good morning. Season's greetings to all of you. And we are so pleased to have people at this meeting from all parts of the world in different time zones. I am Shakira Mohammed of Trinidad and Tobago, teacher for the past 17 years. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the 292nd edition of our ICC Thought Leaders Forum. We wish to sincerely thank all of you who have contributed in whatever way to the success of this ongoing Pan-Indo-Caribbean and Pan-Indian Diaspora Global Grammatea project. For 291 unbroken continuous weeks, we have been here every single Sunday, and in the past 5 years and 8 months, we have featured 1,173 presenters from all parts of the world, speaking on 291 topics. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a weekly forum being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, a legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. And in order to continue this weekly program and to make it bigger and better, we are kindly asking for suggestions and volunteers. If you give a donation, your name will be placed on our poster and all promotional materials, and you can contact Dr. Kumar Mahabir for details. So I'd like you to congratulate Professor David Davidine on being officially nominated for the 2026 Nobel Prize for Literature by European and Chinese scholars. We wish him success in securing the prize. And please know that I would be stepping down as the chairperson of this program due to other commitments, and it was really a truly wonderful and educational experience. And I wish the ICC Thought Leaders Forum greater success with Dr. Kumar Mahabir and Shalama as directors. So I'll introduce our moderator today, who is Shalama Mohammed, the co-director of this ICC Zoom platform, who's a business teacher and researcher from Trinidad and Tobago. She obtained her master's degree in business psychology from Franklin University in the USA. Shalama, welcome.
Thank you so much, Shakir. I'm going to terribly miss you. You've been quite active as the chairperson over I don't know how many episodes of this program, and I want to tell you that we really appreciate all the time, the effort, and the sacrifice that you've taken every single Sunday to be here on the program. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Namaste, season's greetings, and a warm welcome to everyone. I want to thank you very much for choosing to be here with us. I'll ask Dr. Mahabir to say a few words of appreciation at this point.
Well, it's sad. I speak on behalf of everybody, I'm sure. I speak on behalf of ICC and Shakira. Words can't express how much we would miss you. We know you have other commitments which you have given priority. Thank you for the sacrifice that you have made almost every single Sunday for the last few years. I know sometimes you were not feeling well, sometimes you had errands to do, some important event, and yet you were willing to make this sacrifice. It's very, very unfortunate that you have to go, but life has to go on. Not so, Shalima. and we will miss you. We want to wish you the best in all your endeavors, all success, long life, health, and happiness, and may God take good care of you. And
Thank you so much.
yes, it's an emotional moment. And it's hard to find somebody like you, particularly who would make the sacrifice and with the interest that you have displayed in the program. So Navin will just play 1 minute of a musical item as a farewell gift to you. Thank you.
खुदाया तू कन धर के सुन खुदाया तू कन धर के सुन हुन मैनू ते जवाब कि मैं दुखां दा मारिया हालाचार हाल खराब खुदाया तू कन भर के सुन
Thank you, Navin. And thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Shakira, I hope you know that sometimes when there's difficulty, we will still like the opportunity to call on you. We'll talk about that.
I understand. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, you all. So this program is being recorded on Zoom and live streamed on the on the YouTube channel of the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center. So to all of you on YouTube, welcome. To our speakers, kindly note that our IT manager, Ravin, has muted everyone until it's your opportunity to speak. And this is precisely because we want to avoid intrusions from trolls. So I'll kindly ask you to desist from admitting anyone, do not unmute anyone, and please don't allow anyone to share your screen. We appreciate your cooperation. Today, we are talking about the holidays, health, and wellness among Indians in the diaspora. This program seeks to explore how festive seasons such as Christmas and New Year's Day, and for us in the Caribbean, Old Year's Day is more important than New Year's Day, how those particular festive seasons are shaped by lifestyle habits among Indians in the diaspora, often bringing joy, community bonding, and cultural continuity, but also challenges healthy living. It examines the impact of our consumption habits and rituals, and the impact on physical and mental well-being in particular, especially for those managing chronic and non-communicable diseases. We hope participants will gain practical insights on balancing tradition with nutrition, culture, and mindfulness, so that celebrations can be both meaningful and health-promoting. And it's our pleasure to welcome our first speaker today, who is Dr. Munish Raizadeh of the USA. An Indian politician, activist, and medical doctor, he is a prominent non-resident Indian, an NRI. He's the president of the Bharatiya Liberal Party and is a practicing neonatologist. Welcome, Dr. Raizadeh. You have 15 minutes to present. You're muted, sir. Would you mind unmuting your mic, please?
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Shalima. And I'm thankful for this opportunity. I've known Indo-Caribbean, organization since many years. Dr. Kumar Mahavir, through Dr. Kumar Mahavir, and we have published many articles and press releases also at newsgram.com, which we operate from Chicago. This is the first time I'm speaking in this in this forum, but I've known this forum also since last 2 to 3 years, and indeed it's a pleasure to be here and know the solid camaraderie and the goodwill and everything, the vibes which I'm getting here are fantastic. This is a build-up of years of efforts which you guys are putting into this. Incidentally, I am actually in the Virgin Island right now. I'm actually in the US Virgin Island. I'm doing some duties in the hospital here. They called me for a few weeks. So I'm actually in the Caribbean islands at this point.
Nice to have you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. So I start with the presentation. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, I have to go and share the screen. Yes, just a sec. Okay, good.
Okay, it's coming up.
Yes. So this is a screen. I will go for a slideshow. And
Great.
here we go. Yeah, good. So I have the topic today is holidays, health and wellness among Indians in the diaspora. I have deliberately kept my presentation for the US part because I don't know about other Fiji, Mauritius, and of course the huge Indo-Caribbean islands in the West Indies. So I've kept it restricted to the US. So I will go first. The presentation will just take 15 minutes or less than that. First, I will talk about the demographics. Second is the health indices. And third is how do we cope with these kind of, holidays and festivals, and, how do we, keeping in mind acculturation factor, how have we coped over, with these kind of things in the last many years and decades. So Indian diaspora in the US is, as per the Pew Research Center, it has grown steadily, and in fact, it has grown 174% in last 2 decades. It is at this point, we can roughly say about 5 million people in the United States identify themselves as Indians. That means Asian Indians or East Indians. And it was 3.1 million since 2000. So it has grown very heavily on that. 79% of the immigrants are English proficient compared to the 96% of those who are Native Americans. Other top languages in addition to English are Hindi, which is 18%. There's a huge Telugu diaspora as well as in Gujarati, and of course Tamilians. In Chicago, where I live, it is hugely Gujarati, but at the same time, the second number is about Telugu community. But if you go to California side, you will see more of Punjabi population. So 20% of the whole 5 million people live in California. Other states with heavy or large Indian populations are Texas, New Jersey, New York, and Illinois. Illinois is the one, Chicago comes in Illinois. So that is the place where I come from. So in Chicago itself, there's a huge Indian population. And even you go to smaller towns, like Bloomington, Normal, Springfield is the capital of Illinois. There also you will see about, depending upon the size, it could be 300 families, 400 families. So the point I'm trying to make is that every small town also, people have gone and settled there. Metropolitan areas with the largest Indian population are New York, which is almost 7 lakh or 710,000 people. Dallas is 270,000 and San Francisco is 260,000. Other data about Indians in the US, education level is definitely high. The US average is 39%, but 77% of Indian Americans ages 25 and older, they either possess bachelor's degree or advanced degree, which is 45% of the population. 70% of the Indian adults are married compared to 58% of Asians. And the average, US average is 50 to 55%. So compared to that also, Indians are, more likely to be married and settled, 70%. Median annual household income also in the US of Indian diaspora is high. It is average is 83,000, a median household income in the US, and Indian household is likely to be 151,000, so almost double of that. Among Asians, it is 105,000. Household with Indian immigrant household head is 156,000, and the one who is born in the US, like in first generation, they are likely to be 120,000. Because immigrants, those who come directly from India, they are more likely to be higher, well educated with professional degrees. So this explains why they earn more than the US average US born Indian. Median annual personal earning is also the US average is Indian average is 85,000, and compared to Asians also we are making more than that. So 85,000. So household income is 150,000 and average median annual personal earning is 85,000. Now coming to poverty status. Poverty data in the US rate is about 10%, 10.6%. Indians, whether they're coming from abroad, I mean from the India or other places, or born in the US, this rate is 6%. Religious affiliation. 48% of Indian alone adults are Hindus. 15% are Christians, which to me was a surprising number, because in India, Christianity is about 2 to 3% of the total population. 8% of Indian alone adults are Muslims. I was not able to get a tangible, exact figure on this, but I from a couple of sources where I found it seems to be 8%. And 15% are religiously unaffiliated. So 48% are Hindus, and and this doesn't add up to 100%, as you can see. But I'm missing something here. But these are 48% and 15%. They are for pure research, and 8% of Indian alone being Muslims. This is from an unspecified, source. I cannot comment on the validity of that. So in general, the demographics are Indians are more likely to be financially stable, better educated, higher education, and they are more likely to be married in the US. Health indices. Coming to this, so this is interesting. As per Stanford Center for Asian Health Research and Education, 25% of deaths in Indian community happens due to cardiovascular disease, which includes brain stroke also, hemorrhagic stroke. And also, second cause of death is cancer. So, and heart disease in Asian Indians occurs 5 to 10 years earlier than other ethnicities. And this is a well-documented fact that Indians, whether in India or here in the US, they are more likely to have coronary vessels disease, which atherosclerosis, which we call medically speaking, blockade of the coronary arteries, and that leads to cardiovascular disease. Cancer is the second leading cause of death. If you compare it with Indian population in India, that is different, because people there die more of respiratory problems like COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. But in the US, cancer has caught up more with them, and that is the second cause of death. Lifestyle habits such as smoking, poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, and physical inactivity partially contributes to prevalence of cardiovascular disease, COPD, and cancers. And this is a universal phenomenon. It doesn't apply to India or Indian diaspora. These are lifestyle changes which are significant in a global sense. Also coming to diabetes. India is called the diabetes capital of the world. Similarly, and that rate has caught up with has carried along in the US also. Asian Indian immigrants have higher rate of type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, which happens since in the childhood, and type 2 is, which happens in middle age, typically due to obesity and, lifestyle. And so type 2 diabetes, higher incidence of this. And metabolic syndrome also, when there is a clear-cut, documented rise of blood sugar, we call it diabetes. When you cannot, well, when the blood sugar is high, but it cannot be classified as diabetes, then you call it metabolic syndrome. So despite a lower incidence of obesity as compared to non-Hispanic whites, Asian and Indian immigrants experience a higher rate of diabetes and metabolic syndrome. 1 in 3 Asian Indian immigrants have metabolic syndromes, and 1 to 6 have diabetes. So you can see this slide where, cause of death, prevalence of cancer in Indians and Indian Americans. So in India, you can see that prostate cancer, lung, and colon is more in the US, but back home, in the cancer of lungs and oral cavity is much more. And as they can be understood due to the environmental pollution, smoking, and of course, like oral cavity can be explained by consumption of tobacco, pan, gutka, these kind of things. And esophagus cancer can also be attributed to these causes. So I've already spoken about this, poor diet, physical inactivity, use of tobacco products, and also Indians, typical Indian diet is rich of carbohydrates and also fat. We do a lot of cooking. Refined oil, the awareness about refined oil is less. People do a lot of cooking with, unhealthy oils. And that habit has also carried on in the US. We see it all the time. Because first and second generation Indians, those who come to the US, they take time to understand the consequences of this. They carry on their usual, eating and dietary habits, and this speaks about this. And then in the US, sedentary lifestyle is more likely to happen if you're not very careful about, how you spend your day. And that also leads to these kind of, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. And then, of course, the use of these tobacco products and smokeless tobacco products. Now, coming to Indians and outlook towards holidays in the US. So as we understood so far, Indians are, pretty comfortably placed in the US. They are, all health, economic parameters are good. They're more likely to be married, more likely to be educated, more likely to be everything better than others. But health indices, when we speak about their diabetes, cardiovascular disease, they are risk factors. Indians and outlook towards holidays in the US, coming to this, since majority of them are not Christians, and then when it comes to November, December, Thanksgiving Day, Halloween, and of course Christmas and New Year. So over the time, from my personal experience also, Indian community has adapted well to these festivities in holiday season. We tend to look at these things as secular rather than religious tone. Like, we observe, India's surveys have indicated that 73% of Hindu Americans observe Christmas in some form. Because when the children at home, students, young teenagers, you cannot simply wish away, oh, you cannot celebrate Christmas, this is not our festival. That causes further stress. So what I have seen my personal understanding that when Indians gather, even in the temple, in the community places, we tend to embrace these things with a little bit of secular outlook so that we are not kind of, getting into the flow, but at the same time, we are embracing this. And so that, the kids and the family members, also can, adapt to them. So it becomes, these occasions become, opportunities for family bonding, gift giving, festive joy, like as we do in Diwali and Holi, in India. Like Holi is not a religious festival. People of all color, creed, and hues, they celebrate it, Same is the outlook towards, Christmas and holidays. So same applies to New Year's, secular day. It's a secular occasion. So parties and all that. But what we have done also in the, like in last couple of decades, because of the internet and all that, because of travel ease and all that, and the affordability. Now, Indians celebrate all these occasions depending upon their, ethnicities with some kind of, Bollywood ish, color coming to that, they call the parties, the singers come, Bollywood, influencers, Bollywood celebrities come. Even, like, for example, if it is Independence Day, August 15, you will see that, we call celebrities from Bollywood, which probably doesn't make sense to me personally, but people call them, and that that becomes an occasion to assemble and just feel the joy. But if you look at back home, Indians back home seem to be increasingly excited about Christmas and New Year. They have become major festivities, particularly Christmas. Like, I come from New Delhi, so if you go to New Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida, parties after parties are thrown on the occasion of Christmas, and New Year. People are wearing these, hats and, caps of Santa, and they're just, celebrating this. But at the same time, market forces play a role in this. But at the same time, like, as you might have heard about in last couple of days, when Christmas was there on December 25th this year, at many places in India, these, goons and, troublemakers went out. They prevented people from, they indulged in vandalism and, attacking on the churches and creating a panic, among people. Why you're doing this and that? Yesterday there was a news, that in Bareilly, Uttar Pradesh, there was some party, birthday party going on. It was a medical student, nurse actually, and because it was a different religion, the boy and the girl, and they vandalized it. These kind of things. Impact on social well-being. These are last couple of slides. So basically, as I earlier referred to, gatherings, whether at community event like Bollywood-themed Christmas or brunches or family dinners, they reduce cultivation stress and enhance belonging. Celebrating secularly reinforces cultural identity without conflict, fostering greater participation and reflection is key to the wellness. And then these occasions also become an occasion not to talk about politics, because Indians, wherever they assemble, they talk about politics. And when they talk about politics, then caste-based, religion, all these things come into play. This is very common. You can't avoid this in India. So when you're meeting for these kind of occasions, Christmas and all this, then you probably spare these topics, and these become occasions to intermingle, sit down together, talk about other issues, and feel happy about this. But at the same time, some modifications have also happened. For example, Indians have given their own shape to these festivals to some extent. Like, for example, Turkey, Thanksgiving Day. The Thanksgiving Day means, cutting turkey and serving turkey. And many Indians, those who come with vegetarian background, they find it difficult to, to how to adapt to this. Though they have found their own ways, non-vegetarian, vegetarian dishes they serve. And, that way they can feel that they can be part of this Thanksgiving. At the same time, they don't have to, indulge in this kind of, cutting these animals. Some families also align with Hindu festivities like Pancha Ganpati, which comes in December 21 to 25th. So this is a 5-day celebration honoring Lord Ganesha with gifts. So that way, you are sailing through the same boat, you're flowing, being a part of the festivities, but at the same time, you're finding your own reason to celebrate. So I think that's pretty much, I think I finished well in time, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raizada. You've given us an excellent overview of the immigrant situation in the US in particular, and all the factors that are currently affecting the health, which, some of those diseases that you've spoken about, I'm sure the other speakers are going to talk about as well, because unfortunately, we in the diaspora are plagued. So I want to thank you very much for that. And generally, we would bring members of the audience in at this point to ask questions, but because of the nature of the expertise that we have in our panel today, I'd like to ask our audience to please just put your questions and your comments in the chat, and after all the speakers have presented, we will go ahead and take those questions. So Dr. Raizada, thank you very much. And we will now move on to Dr. Vivian Lambihar of Canada. He's no stranger to us. He was born and raised in Guyana, but later migrated to Canada. He's a cardiologist who has been really crusading to prevent heart disease and diabetes in the Indian diaspora. Dr. Lambihar, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm getting my slides up.
Great.
And congratulations to the organization for the good work you've been doing for so many years,
Thank you.
and for everybody who's worked hard at this. So my presentation is going to be a bit different from the last one, excuse me, and a bit more general. And I would look forward to hearing from the audience about what happens around the diaspora in the far reaches where we don't hear as much, like Fiji, Mauritius, South Africa, and so on, because we are going to talk today mostly about Canada, US, and the West Indies. So the Guyana newspaper, I speak about Guyana and Canada because I grew up in Guyana, live in Canada now, and I've been back. So in the newspapers, we see lots written about Guyana Christmas, as you see here. And the Kite News and this month talks about Guyana Christmas food being the best in the world. So I think the contest is open now. The competition is on to see who has the best Christmas food and the best holiday food. Wait to see what Trinidad has to offer. And today, of all days, I had to add the slide. December 28th, Vibert Cambridge, who you probably know, is a Caribbean and Indo-Caribbean scholar, has this in the pepper pot section of the Guyana Chronicle. And he talks about Guyanese of all walks of life celebrating Christmas because of the multi-ethnic backgrounds. We all share and celebrate all the different festivals and holidays. And he says Christmas in Guyana is unlike Christmas anywhere, where he uses the term break up the house, meaning you clean up for the new year. And so I encourage you to read this. Today's Pepper Pot Guyana Chronicle. A long article, very interesting. But he said apart from the food and drinks, holiday season is family and community. And most important, traditions have shifted and adapted. And in his article, he reflects on tradition and change. So we have this posted while I was preparing for this. I found this. You know, someone says that holidays are often synonymous with an outdated idea of throwing out healthy lifestyle for a while during the holidays, and you catch up later. So if we talk about lifestyle, then we should talk what really we mean by health and wellness and lifestyle. And many holidays across the diaspora, the question is, do they contribute to ill health? So I'd like people to think about that. And then the second question is, how can you use holidays to improve health and wellness? And the concept that usual health issues get worse during the holidays with various other issues like something called broken-hearted Valentine's Day, sports events, etc., holiday heart syndrome. So we asked the question, what affects health and wellness? So I'm not going to go through these in detail. I'm happy to give the slides to anyone who wishes. These are things outside diet and exercise, the community determinants from social, economic, political, and so on. This is done, expressed a different way, done by my student, Sana Khan. It's not for you to read and know the details, but just know there are many things that go into creating health and wellness. And there are many risk factors for heart disease and diabetes, which are the prominent things we talk about. I'm not going to go through this again. This is a talk for an entire hour. But we all know what diabetes, heart disease, smoking, blood pressure, not enough foods, not enough exercise, and so on. So there are specific risk factors that increase your risk. Now, on December 19th this year, the American Heart Association says holiday heart attacks spike. And we should be aware of this. There's something else called a Christmas coronary effect, a perfect storm of stress, lifestyle change, etc. And because of Christmas, people delay going to the hospital, etc. There are more cardiac deaths in the US on December 25th than other days. And the BMJ says 50% overall increase in heart attacks. Now, this is, I guess, mostly northern countries where we have to shovel snow and you don't. And more often people over 75 with diabetes, etc. So this talk, I'm giving in honor of these people you see here, and a lot of people who have contracted heart disease at a young age. And I will focus on the top right. He was the Indian High Commissioner to Guyana in 1997. In the 50th anniversary celebrations for the holiday, he had a heart attack and he died. And a year later, his wife died. His daughter, who I know very well, living in Toronto, is in Delhi today. I talked to her to ask her what are they doing about preventing heart health in their family and community. And she says, yes, they are working on it, changing their diet, exercise habits, etc., but it's not easy. And nobody said it's easy. There are many determinants, commercial, economic, all kind of other things. But many people in the family are overweight, are diabetic or pre-diabetic at a young age. So this is what we have to work at. But she says they are working hard and I have their permission to discuss and put their names out because she's interested in using her name and the metaphor of her father being the Indian High Commissioner, dying early, to try and prevent heart disease and diabetes and death at a young age across the Indian community. Now, there are numerous other festivals and holidays around the Indian diaspora, and I was fortunate to be in Guyana this year for both Pagua and Diwali, and I saw the adaptations being made. And I spoke to somebody today about a festival and holiday they have today, in which they go out of their way to eat healthy and to go out exercising and so on to counteract this increased risk that is known for diabetes and heart disease. But being Christmas, I put up these two. You can't read the details, but on the right side you can read the 5 tips being Christmas of specific things you can do, and proposing that we enjoy the holidays and we think heart, but we should start or we continue and develop a new tradition. I'm not going to go through this in details. As I said, you can have the slides, but there are things that contribute to holiday ill health: increased stress, disruptive routines, overintelligence, etc. And there's specific things you can do to balance the festive fun with improving health. People don't spend too much time thinking about sleep. You have to stay active. Even short walks are important. You manage mindful eating, staying hydrated, setting boundaries, and so on. Managing stress, connecting positively with others in the community, and limiting conflict. Physical health, keep moving, play games, even for a few minutes, eat mindfully, hydrate, prioritize sleep, dress warmly, etc. Mental, emotional wellness, manage expectations, create routine, find calm, practice gratitude, and so on. These things are all positive, important things that people can do. Managing food and drink. Remember, there's commercial determinants in which you're encouraged to eat more or eat unhealthy foods because that's what's sold mostly. But there are people who sell healthy foods, and at home you can practice and get healthy food. Less or no alcohol. This might be contentious because there are people whose lives and careers and business has to deal with alcohol, but it may cause more harm than good. And the current medical recommendation is less alcohol or no alcohol, which is different from previous. You can find healthy snacks, etc. And fasting. They are Indian diaspora specific things that Narendra Prasad, one of my friends, travels to India on occasion, teaches yoga. He does yoga. They do dance shows, music in Canada and there. The Viticultural Center has their arrival day in which they encourage healthy living and healthy practices. There's a walk and a run at different places. And when I was in Guyana, there was a breast cancer run. People from all ethnicities get involved with it. So there's much more. I would appreciate hearing from people what you do across the diaspora for health. Why do we have to do this? On the right is an article we wrote in 1990 about traditions. We have to balance culture and tradition and develop new traditions for health. On the left, showing that there's increased heart disease and diabetes in the Indian community for many reasons. This is December 2025 American College of Cardiology. And this confirms this in a World Health Organization data. Cardiovascular disease, world #1 killer. There's a background of excess premature heart disease and diabetes across the Indian diaspora. This story started in Singapore in 1959, but also in Guyana, 1959, Mohan Ragbir, who's a pathologist, talked about it in Trinidad as well, and in South Africa and in East Africa. At the same time, people start talking about increased diabetes and heart disease in the Indian community. We got to figure out why and what do you do about it. And on holidays, we have to go out of our way to try and prevent this. And this is the data confirming this. Kaichor News, a couple of years ago, showed that in Guyana, in the 20s and 30s, Indian people are coming into the emerge. Mahendra Carpenter wrote this. He's a cardiologist seeing these people coming into emerge with heart attacks. It's something we have to address. And why this happens, it's a systems problem, not just individual problem, where we need an all-in society, all-in systems approach from when you're born, before you're born, and you adapt the different diet and lifestyle habits you develop in the community as a complex adaptive system. You adapt and change. The Journal of American College of Cardiology summarizes this, that your health is shaped by the environment, not just diet and exercise. And you have to focus beyond that. And our interest is not to lecture or exhort people to eat healthy and so on. We have to get to the community to buy into this, that they believe that they need to change behavior exposures. We know what is needed. What we now need is what's called implementation science for the community and the population. So this is just a few more slides. There are missed opportunities, as you see this cascade. Many places we have failed to do the things we need to do to improve health for the individual and the community. We can change all of these things. This is my summary slide. We come back to what individuals and the community can do, focus on the things we know of. No smoking, blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, not enough fruits, not enough exercise, reduce stress, family history, do more, and things like this. 80% of premature heart disease is preventable. The question now is, what can we as a community, outside of the medical profession, outside of health profession, outside of a doctor's office, in the community? I've been to Trinidad, I've been to Guyana, I've been around the Caribbean, I've spoken in some of the temples, I've spoken in the community centers. How do we get people to buy into this to achieve the change you need for health and wellness? So for 2026, I think what we have to do is to use holidays as opportunities for change. I might challenge everyone to reflect, to learn more, to improve health and wellness. As Vibert Cambridge said at the beginning in the Pepworth article, traditions can shift and adapt. If we have some traditions and customs that are not particularly healthy, we can adapt. We can do some of those things at sometimes, but we move away from some of them and we continue healthy lifestyle, especially during the holidays. I'm going to end with this because it was Christmas and we're still thinking Christmas. On the left, you can't really read the details in those recommendations, but on the right, you can. If You want 5 things you have to remember from this talk. Remember these 5 things. You prioritize health, you plan physical activity, mindful eating and so on, healthy recipe makeover, hydration, and the other things have I said. And I will stop there and leave it to you to think, what can you do? And what can people around the diaspora do? I'd be happy to hear from everyone about what you have done and what more you plan to do. Thank you.
Excellent. Another insightful presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Rambihar. I like the fact that you included the fruit cake and the sorrel drink and all that sort of thing. It's I think it was our foreparents' way of having a healthy festival, a healthy Christmas. Unfortunately, we have sugar added, significant sugar added, and it seems that we can't get enough of it. So therein lies a problem that we probably need to address and still have all the nice fruitcake and so on. You're muted.
Now I want to see which country has the best.
It's here, Trinidad.
Good.
Being biased.
Okay.
We'll have to put it to the test. Thank you very much. Again, I invite members of the audience, please put your questions in the chat. And for those of you on YouTube, also please put it in the chat and we will take those questions after all the presentations. So we stay with Guyana and I want to introduce Dr. Sawan Jagnarayan. His work reflects a blend of clinical practice, education, and public health leadership, making him a recognized contributor to health initiatives and medical training in Guyana. Welcome, Dr. Jagnarayan.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure being here. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. And it's an honor to speak after 2 eloquent speakers and 2 of my seniors. Dr. Rambihar was here in Guyana, and he gave a beautiful presentation at the Guyana Pegasus. One that was very impactful to young doctors like us. And to speak at a forum like this alongside him, it's an honor. Though we may have some lapovers, but you will take the loud of the questions. All right, if I may share my PowerPoint presentation.
Let's go.
Definitely. So what I'm gonna do is basically talk a little bit about the Guyana perspective of what is happening here. I'll be very short because my 2 prior speakers actually went a lot in detail and they outlined a lot of public health measures and medical aspect of things. And what I want to do is to bring awareness as to what is the current state that we're having when it comes to the festive season and what is happening in Guyana, because a lot of things is happening in Guyana. You have a geopolitical growth, economic growth, and with economic growth, you will see there is a lot of changes, lifestyle changes that is occurring. What we have seen, and I see Dr. Rambihar mentioned it, persons between 40 to 50 years old, they're having cardiovascular diseases. And this is because you have a shift of lifestyle changes within our society. And it was happening so commonly that we were surprised of what was happening. So you find that the ministry actually have done a number of programs to be very targeted in what they're doing, especially in the primary care level, to ensure that we have persons within the communities to start to adopt, and we are making changes also to the recipes of of these festive foods to ensure that we decrease the calories, decrease the sugar content, use alternatives, because we want to encourage people to make changes in their daily lives. And at the same time, you find also that you have the impactfulness of private sector growth when it comes to gyms being exploring measures of in different communities. And you find that there's a number of gyms now in Guyana, but we still have data now that is actually showing that there's still a growth in the curve. We are not the diabetes capital, but we still have cultural norms that we share. So we have no disclaimer currently on this presentation, but what I want to share with you is in Guyana, socially, it's a common thing. If you ask anyone and you go on the streets and you talk to anybody, or we catch up as friends, as long you pass 18-year-old, you catch up as friends, we'll take a beer. And it's a common thing now in society, whether it's festive or not. So how do we change this? Because traditionally, this was not there. Then when you have this festive season, you find that we are meeting more regularly and we're drinking in longer periods. All right. So you find that this connectivity that we have now in Guyana, we meet up at a corner shop, we take a beer, we kind of greet our friends, and things like that is happening. Traditionally, this was not happening. And you find that persons are trying to accept this culture as a way of life, as something that, they want to continue to do. And it's not what is actually going to be impactful to our society because I need some help here. I'm not getting to move. Okay, good. And what happened is that you find that you have an increase in alcohol sales in Guyana. So you have all of this that is happening. You're moving from your traditional ways, and you find that young people are doing stuff that is not healthy for themselves and society. Like for instance, vaping. Vaping started now, you have a 12-year-old is vaping. We have to target a different population group because when that 12-year-old reach 18, they're actually going to become a permanent smoker. We have to know what we're doing. Then we have a confusing state where persons are pushing themselves because, of this whole diaspora paradox. And in Guyana, because we have relatives overseas and we are talking to them, we want to also show that, we can also celebrate bigger than them. Because we have a bigger physical spending now, so we think that we should do a celebration as common as them or bigger than them. But the reality is this: our borders are a little bit porous. And because our borders are a little bit porous, we find that the Indian population, because of Guyana makeup, it's all over Guyana. It's parts everywhere. So our demographics is one that we need to look at. Take, for instance, if I go down to Letem, Letem is mostly common Amerindian population. But what happened is that we have Indians there too. We have Indian nationals also who lives in Letem. But Guyana society is a multi-racial, multi-ethnic society. And it is one that is actually bring about people together. And when we bring people together, you find that it celebrates for everything. And the consumption patterns when it comes to alcohol, smoking, unhealthy diets starts to increase. Take, for instance, if we have a birthday party, we're not going to just invite, one neighbor. Everybody's going to come. The entire street is going to come. So you find that everybody's going to bring something to that festive board. And our population now becomes at risk. And as our population becomes at risk, you find that the younger generation starts to develop obesity, starts to develop chronic diseases at an early age, right? Now, the question bears, what is next? What is the next plan? Yes, we have programs in place to fix certain things, but with the next generation needs to take their health seriously. Dr. Rambira Hart talk about holiday heart syndrome. The holiday heart syndrome is like, one of the things that can affect persons here in Guyana. And, key triggers like binge drinking, dehydration, heavy metals, and loss of sleep. These are key things that is very common in our society. Our overindulgence is a big thing. Guyanese, when we do things in a different way. And we want to ensure that we do it bigger and better. And you find that persons now are not looking at the other side. They believe that good food is a lot of food. But sometimes you have to actually reach out to some of these population to guide them. And that is why things are in place now to reach out to these population. But the young people, Young people, because of the changing nature of the oil and gas sector, you find that they are drifted. And when they're drifted, we have to ensure that we pull them back in line. And it's taking a while, but there are efforts to actually pull persons in the next generation, especially the Indian population, into a line to ensure that they eat healthy, they act healthy, and they stay healthy. Because what happens is that mental health is one of the things that can affect them very easily, because you don't want this compound cultural nature of being an Indian and in an Indian society have the effect of you being affected in your daily lives in society, because all these stresses can cause emotional effects, behavioral consequences. Sometimes, young people may question themselves whether their parents are telling them the correct thing or the society is telling them the correct thing. So what we have to do is to ensure that what they're doing, they are doing the right things in their own interests. And I believe the sedentary lifestyle is one of the things that actually going to be key if we're going to key to target, if we're going to move ahead when we come to changing health, especially in this festive season. Because sometimes when you have the festive season, you find that people go through into the new year with the same attitudes, the same cultural pattern, the same eating habits. And what does it do to them? It puts them at risk for chronic diseases. And that is why I looked at a few things that different from my prior speakers, because I believe that most persons will be looking at a medical aspect. So what I did was to look at Ayurvedic or cultural wisdom, because WHO now is looking at global traditional medicine strategy. They actually launched the Global Medicine Traditional Strategy 2025 to 2034 in India a few weeks ago. And what happened is that they want to encourage people to integrate traditional medicine into you know our standard medicine. And what happened is that they're finding that sometimes this medicine is not what all that we need. We need that little push. Like for instance, some of us would have a metabolic regulatory change with Ayurvedic medicine. We may have some form of psychosocial buffering with Ayurvedic medicine. And this can actually help us as a community as a whole, because most times, Indian people do not talk about their mental health issues. They do not talk about mental health problems that they may have. And that is why in Guyana, we want them to reach out to us, because we have a mental health strategy currently that launched that is very targeted to assist people in all of this. And we want to push the strategy of mindful eating. Let's plan our indulgence. Let's not push ourselves to a limit where we get ourselves, to hurt our future. Let us look at our alcohol consumption. Let us manage our meal. Let us ensure that we get adequate sleep. And these are key things, because most times when we go on party, we tend to have 1 or 2 hours sleep. So we want to encourage persons to ensure that what they're doing in this festive season be one that is enriched, and they would not follow through into the new year as it comes. All right. Ensure that we know our boundaries. We take our medication, especially persons who are taking medication. During this festive season, they don't take their medication, and what happened is that they end up, at a worse state than they were before. So we want to ensure that they take their medication and ensure that they have their festive metabolic checks afterwards, because this is key for our society, and this is common every year that is happening here in Guyana. So that is why we want to stress to ensure that persons to know their boundaries and keep their doctors guidance and recommendations, so that they would not be at a position to hurt themselves in the long run. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jagnaran. I'm so happy to hear that you raised the whole idea about integrating traditional medicine with allopathy. I'm very, very relieved to hear that.
You may be relieved, but I'm basically quoting what is happening currently. So it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm 100%, fully supportive, but currently WHO is actually looking at its strategies to see where they can integrate it. And they have invited persons across the globe so that they can be able to find a way so that we can benefit together as a globe, as
Yeah.
this global community. Because what happened is that 70% of the persons use traditional medicines, and we didn't even know that.
Well, that's a whole lengthy discussion that we're going to get into after. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring on our final speaker now to add to the exceptional information that we've been getting today. And this is Dr. Mandreka Bahal from right here in Trinidad and Tobago. He's a specialist of internal medicine and exceptionally well known in the field of cardiology in particular. He's an honorary research fellow from the University of the West Indies and director of the North Central Regional Health Authority. He has been ranked among the top 2% of researchers globally in his field, and it's a pleasure to have him on the program. Welcome, Dr. Bahal.
Thank you very much. You hear me there?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. So I want to really thank the previous speakers for their wonderful presentation, because I learned quite a lot from those presentations, quite frankly. I am going to continue with the same tone, trying to see how best we could kind of inform our audience about the state of this health or wellness that we want to encourage of the Indian community in this diaspora. First slide, please. My presentation will take, next slide, will take the form of looking at the present situation in Trinidad, looking at the health risk, and going through where we are from a historical perspective and the way forward. Next slide. Our present situation, I mean, if we know where we are, then we could probably decide as to how to maneuver ourselves to kind of correct the problem or to achieve any success. And looking at taking a slant from a cardiovascular perspective, but knowing, of course, our situation among our communities, Trinidad, like Guyana, rest of the world, ischemic heart disease is really the #1 killer. But in Trinidad, it accounts for 90.6 per 100,000. Now, it's not just the figure. When we look at the Indo-Trinidadian population, they suffer more. I'll come back to that in a second. In the case of renal failure, it's mentioned that the Afro community suffers most, 67.9% of people with renal failure. But that was a figure about a decade ago, and I'm sure because of the prevalence of diabetes and hypertension, the Indo-Trinidadian will be slowly kind of having an equal amount of people suffering from renal failure. Well, of course, stroke is another cardiovascular disease, and again, the Indo-Trinidadian community is 60.2%. In other words, these conditions, which are very serious complications, seem to be moving where the Indians or are more affected for whatever reason. Next slide, please. If we look at this slide, this was a study I did a number of years ago to look at the prevalence of acute myocardial infarction in Trinidad. This was done in South Trinidad. In this slide, you will see the Indo-Trinidadian population. The Indo-Trinidadians, that's blue in the middle there. Males are affected mainly. And if you look at the bar graph on the left, the Afro-Trinidadian female is the lowest, around 40-something, while the Indo male is about 4 times that figure. In other words, the Indo male is high up on the list, followed by the Indo female, then the Afro male, followed by the Afro female, the lowest, about 44 per 100,000. Even though the average figure generally is about 90.6. So you see the magnitude of the problem among the Indian community in Trinidad. And that's only for acute myocardial infarction. All other of these conditions, stroke, and I want to believe to kidney failure, it has a slant towards a greater predominance of the Indo community. Next slide, please. Now, the mean age in Trinidad for heart attack is 58 years, about 1 decade earlier, or even more than high-income countries. And if we think that is not, that 58 years really display, well, look, you may have people with having heart attack at the age of 30, 40, and so on, and predominantly the Indo-Trinidadian male. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of the health risks, we have all the previous speakers have mentioned these, and it's no kind of secret. But of course, we know when you have these risks, you're going to develop cardiovascular complications. And it is slanted towards the Indo community. Smoking, 19 to 21% prevalent, obesity, 12.6%. It goes as much as 48.3% in 2016. Sedentary lifestyle, sweet consumption, stress and depression, all these were mentioned by the previous speakers. Next slide, please. But, you know, how did we really get here? Everybody talking about we didn't know, lack of knowledge and awareness, but really and truly, I want to agree with my previous speaker, or the one before, that culture has a major effect in how we deal with these things. Because even though we know plenty, we still eating a lot of sweets. So it can't be knowledge alone. Whether we put accessibility, we now doing a study to see what are the, not looking from a dietitian perspective or a doctor perspective, what are the socio-psycho-cultural implications or influences to dietary pattern? Because while we think that there may be a migrant gene that could cause cardiovascular disease in the Caribbean, I want to believe there's something other than this migrant gene. Maybe it is in that same food that we're discussing over the last hour. And that has to do a lot with the culture. Next slide, please. Now, I mean, all speakers have mentioned about this kind of habit we have when we're having, once we have a party or holiday, we think of a liming culture and everything to get something to eat. When our liming culture is not, let me go and play a game of tennis, or let us go in Center City and ride with bicycle all over the place, and when we take a break, we get a glass of water. Our holiday or liming culture is what I think to a large extent is killing us. As some of you mentioned, like I just from a restaurant and the place packed. Only food, ice cream, fries, meat. Someone mentioned about the timing, whether we're eating more daytime or nighttime eating. We don't really care. In fact, I want to believe a lot of our eating is in front of the television. And the amount of eating, we never eat until we're belly half full. We want to eat until, according to the saying, it's better your belly bust than to waste food. And that is the kind of habit we have. Sitting, chilling. Well, don't talk about the bar culture. Opposite my house here, there's a bar. Everything goes there. Now we have imported the bar in the trunk of the car. So anywhere you go, the bar is in the trunk of the car. Loud music, you put your speakers on the car, and you have your bar in your trunk. And that's how we behave. And we expect to make a difference. What we mentioned, rivers, beaches, and malls, what are we doing there except eating and chilling or kind of enhancing the sedentary lifestyle? So I want to believe throughout the year we behave in this way, but during the festive season, this catalyzes the process because now we have more people, more gatherings, more social occasions, just to enhance what we already have been doing over the year. And that's why the prevalence of all these cardiovascular risks keep increasing and there's no hope to go down back. Why? And I mentioned, look, I have something highlighted there in red. There's less of social and sporting events. There's no such thing as we going somewhere for not a drink. We're going to relax in a place where there's food. So I think this kind of cultural, this kind of contextual thing, and what in a way, in my opinion, I haven't the evidence for it, but I want to believe this may be driving our society forward in this negative direction. And next slide, please. Take a look at the food import bill. In 2003 to 2016, we used to import $3.85 billion per year. But in 2023, it is 7.2 billion. Even though we're growing our own food, people may talk about inflation and all these differently, but at the end of the day, our food bill has kind of more or less doubled in the last few years. So we're spending too much time investment in food. Next slide, please. And it's not just about the food. I mean, we talk about, I saw that last play that the doctor put up on the screen there with 50% being vegetables. A lot of our food is incomplete. Next slide, please. I'll just share something. Look, this is what we do in our shelf, $1.2 billion in this kind of snack. If you look for a dietary product in this shelf where it has no sugar, you could never find one. So our focus, even now, business people are there to make money. And I would never be against them, but our society at large cannot depend on the individual to be able to say, look, I could handle my story. I could protect myself from all these temptations. No, the society itself is pushing we. It's like a tsunami out there. You're showing people all the ice cream and telling that child, do it. We have a society that is pressuring you to eat fast food because there are no natural good food outlets, pressuring you in this grocery to take all these junk food. In a long time, and I will come to that, but this junk food is killing our nation as well. And people next slide. People asking ourselves, well, you have the right to choose. Businessmen saying you have the right to choose, but that's not true. The societal model dictates that the public health infrastructure may be the one that is guilty over here. Look, and I know we because of our own whether it be Hindu or Muslim or whatever it may, we tend to like to make sure all of us are happy. And this wasn't by the PAHO 2011. That a high carbohydrate and high calorie diet comprises 95% of traditional meals in the Eastern population, in the Eastern community. And we know that the Mediterranean diet talks about 50% of vegetables. And we're not even talking about the overconsumption of alcohol, tobacco smoking, and the lack of exercise, which predispose to the non-communicable diseases. So we have a major problem. And this was identified by PAHO in 2011. Next slide, please. And this was my study where all of us, there's a preference for these toxic foods comprising plenty sugar and plenty. So I know people go in your grocery just to collect a bag of stuff for the 3- and 4-year-old to carry 2 or 3 packets every single day in school, comprising these kind of toxic atherogenic food. And so we start inculcating that culture of junk food at a very early age. Next slide, please. Now, all those habits have been mentioned before, but the focus on this food and the sedentary lifestyle, it may be pushing people to all these other risk factors that we see that have developed that cause cardiovascular disease. Next slide. I want to remind you, and that is why I'm just talking about acute myocardial infarction here, but this is a proxy to how Indians behave in general, that the Indo male is top of the list here with about 141.50 microden fraction per 100,000. And the age is about 58 years. And you know how much time is lost by him? Productivity is lost. How many families have to live without a husband, without a father figure? And that's the state of our Indian community. Next slide. Now, the historical perspective. We have been saying that we love this thing, but that is not true. Our indentureship people came with very simple food, and they were living long. We're talking about celebrating 110 years of an indentured person. Our indentured would eat simple rice and dal and a tikari. Post-indentureship, we get a little more freedom to have a little more balanced diet. But once the post-indentureship period was gone, boy, I tell you, I'm worried about Guyana as well. I think this guy mentioned about the increase in money flowing in Guyana, the Western culture, and of course the indoor type leisure activity. I remember a child telling me she preferred to play on the phone because she don't sweat. When she goes outside in that sun, she's sweating plenty. So this indoor culture, whether it be bowling or all these things, is being part of our new culture now. We have money, we could just sit down and eat. We have money, we could eat all kind of junk food. We have money, we don't want to play outside. And that now is creating a major issue in our population. And if we don't do it, we're going to die younger and younger and younger. I did a study on fast food outlets in Trinidad and Tobago. I won't show it here because of time. But the fast food industry has grown exponentially. I practice in Marbella, and I can't find no place where there's where you can get a proper, simple food to eat. Well, you have KFC, you have Mario, you have Double Bender, you have Subway, you have all these different people, but the actual, so what are I supposed to do when I'm starving? I'm forced to go there. So the society is very pressuring me to eat this toxic food that is being pushed down our throats. So the toxic food group, where we emphasize sweets and more sweets. And this is the state. And we want to blame our forefathers. I don't think so. We should blame the evils of money, the Western culture, and the laziness of our people, the indoor leisure activity. We don't want to go out there and say, let me stop today and Sunday, eat midday brunch. Let us go somewhere where we can enjoy and play and do whatever. This is what I'm speaking about. Next slide, please. Now, again, this is the entire study. Yeah? Look, that explains 50%. Why wouldn't we want to focus on our diets? I mean, if 50%, and we see, rather than we go on now, I think if we cut down our food bill by 50%, still nobody will starve, and we will all be living happy, and we're going to save $3.5 billion in Trinidad and Tobago dollars. But no, we want to have a simplistic way. Are we not investing in a proper, healthy body? We're investing in trying to enjoy, let the tongue enjoy, and forget about the rest of the body. Next slide, please. Next slide. And now, I'll just take a half minute on this slide. If we look on the x-axis as you age, look at the lowest line, this blue or green line. All those things in the first level, food outlets, sporting facility, relaxation areas, community centers, psychological issues, kidnapping, all these social determinant, depression, pregnancies, divorce, and so on, all those things. If we have less of those things, of course, the age of getting some kind of catastrophe would be much higher. Much higher. And when you get a risk factor, it could be even in your 70s or 80s, you must have blocked artery at some point in time. Or when you develop a heart attack, it could be a life-threatening event. It could be at the age of 80 or 90 or whatever. It's a pipe, so it must block at some point in time. But look at that good line is shifted towards the left. The more we behave bad in terms of all these public health issues that that the individual alone is not responsible for. But if you have these public health issues pushed down through, that line will be pushed more and more to the left until you get the red, where we have poor health status developing. And at an earlier age, you could be developing all the cardiovascular and other complications as well. So we have to try and push that line to the right by making sure all these public health issues come and don't affect we negatively at an early age. Next slide, please. So the way forward, wellness focus, and that was mentioned by our previous speaker, I think it's Sarah, replacement of comfort food, snack and junk food, sports and activity centers, allowing more social gathering with less ease, stress environment to kind of take care of people with depression and so on. So use of natural settings to start the process, whether it be schools, hospitals, clinics, workplaces, but we have to get that engendered at a very early age. Next slide, please. So I think we all know that it is not really in one person alone could do the job. It's multifactorial, multidimensional. All of us have a part to play. But the take-home message is that our population is being affected most by the lifestyle issue. And I feel that it's time that we need a societal approach to be able to kind of get that access easier for positive food, positive social activities, and all these things, which we have in us, but we're not doing it. The implementation is poorly, is lacking tremendously. So once again, I want to thank the forum for allowing me the opportunity to share my views on this matter. I feel strongly about our lifestyle and cardiovascular disease. So again, I want to thank Kumar and his team for allowing me this opportunity. Thanks to the rest of the panelists as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bahal. Extremely good information, and I'm so glad to see that you showed us the study, San Fernando General Hospital study of 2020. So my question to you and to members of the audience, sorry, before I get to you, Sil, to members of the audience, please go ahead, raise your electronic hands. You will find that in the reactions button at the base of your Zoom screen, and then we'll be able to take your questions. Mr. Ramirez Dwarka, I see your hand up, and please go ahead and unmute to ask your question. But while we wait for you to do that, Dr. Bahal, let me just throw a question to you. If somebody invites you to a line and they tell you, well, you know, we're going to serve rice, dal, and bhaji, and you have to go to our next line and they tell you, well, you're going to get dal puri with curry duck and mango tal curry and all the other tal curries that you could get. Which one are you going to choose?
Well, I was, to make a long story short, I would have to take a little bit of either. But at the end of the day, like somebody asked me yesterday, Doc, I want to serve some grandma soon. You take some? I said, well, give me a pinch, that shouldn't kill me. Give me a pinch. Because I know I don't want to encourage people to eat plenty of sweets and all these things. So a little chunks of rice, a little bit of dal, and that should be enough. I'm not saying it won't play bad sometime, but I'm saying in general, you have to notice it, stop, because it's your body. That is your investment for life, right? I'm gonna take a little pinch.
Mr. Dwarka, go ahead, please.
Yes, Shalima, thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Right. You know, I sat here listening to the conversation. I was just listening to Dr. Bahal, and I want to thank these presenters. Very valuable information,
Yes.
you know, for our diaspora here. But, you know, I want to speak from personal experience. I used to hunt and I ate everything that moved in those days. I drank. I am a person in recovery as well. So I've been there, done that. But I have moved to being vegetarian now. And I tell people, look, if you can't get food to eat, then you should eat meat and things that come out from factory. Other than that, you know, let me just share an experience. I have a sister who, I'm 79, my sister is 81. She had a stroke about 6 weeks ago. And she has been on hypertension medicine, heart medicine, diabetes medicines for years. And I introduced her to a diet that I'm using. That is fruits in the morning until 12, large plate of vegetable, 4 raw vegetable at least, and then medal and rice and bhaji. Same thing in the evening. And I have not had to take, I too had stents and valve change and so on. I'm not on any medication for the last few years. And she has now been off, she's only on 1 aspirin, even at her age. And she's now saying that she has never felt better in her life. But she was not willing to do anything, although I've been talking to her for years, until she got the stroke. So I'm wondering, I mean, giving information, lectures, presentation, and all of that, but until people have experience, and the doctors in the room will, I'm sure, certify to this, that, you know, you talk to people for years, but it's only when they have a cardiovascular accident or something like that, then they become willing to change. You understand? So I don't know how we can do this. You know, we have to look at it because it's not only food, it's attitude, lifestyle, and all of those things. So I again want to thank for the presentation, but it surely has jogged my memory. We all should be thinking, how do we go forward from here to create the changes that we want to see among our population? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dwarka. I'm so sorry to hear about your sister. I hope it's not Banu. We could talk about that after, but very important that you raise prevention being better than cure, I think, is what you're trying to say. So I want to throw it out to the doctors. What are your recommendations? Dr. Bahal, would you like to go first?
Yeah, well, I think the recommendation that we have to get, I mean, the legalistic approach may not be the best way. I believe that the societal model should be the way to go. That, you know, we have to find more playground for people. We have to find more places of where they could go and activate the body, yoga centers and all the different things, and encourage people through education to get there and forget about the food. The second thing is that the food places should be encouraged to sell products, or if they can't sell good products, but at least label all these toxic products. Label it properly with the amount of calories and the amount of fat and so on. Not in very fine print, but bigger print, as you can see. So you can't find how much calorie, it's so small. I mean, we have to try from the family to practice, because a lot of people bring in the junk food at home and saying it's home food, but it's really home food that was bought from the outside in that way. So it has to be a kind of multi-dimensional approach. Yeah, I don't have the full answer, but I think it has to be from a societal model.
Yeah, interesting. Let's as the head of the NCRHA now.
Not the head, I'm one of the directors.
Sorry.
There are a few of us.
One of the directors who holds much influence. Do you think we now have to move to mandating to the population what they do and mandating to the food outlets that they do those labels? Do you think it has to come from state level?
Yeah, the mandating for outlets, yes, correct. Because nobody, the food outlets, they run by business to make money. But if they give them certain kind of legalistic requirement, they would have to allow. They will have to, and even the supermarkets should be forced to also import food that without sugar. Because if you go for cereal right now, there are no cereal without sugar in all of them. Out of the 27 different types they have, not one have a kind of sugar-free cereal.
That's true.
Yeah.
And even if you buy whole grain oats, whole oats, it does not taste good. I mean, you can add all the dates and all the raisins and so on into it to kind of give it some flavor, but it really needs a little punch, maybe. So I add honey sometimes.
Well, that might be good, but if you only want to stay away from sugar, if you are diabetic, you have to stay away from all forms of sugar. And I'm saying that we don't have that in our supermarkets. We need to find a way to get them to import sugar-free stuff as well. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much for that. Dr. Rambihar, would you like to add anything?
I could add a few comments. it's if there was an easy answer, somebody would have found it already and done it. So the fact that we still have this problem 20, 30, 50 years later and getting worse means that it's not easy. And it, as all the speakers have said, it is not just an individual decision for to have strength of will and willpower to eat healthy and so on. Because there are too many commercial, social, and other influences which impact that. So any solution has to be what has generally been called all in society or all in diaspora efforts. And many organizations are trying hard at the organization level when they have events to change the minds of people who arrive, and in schools and cultural events and so on. So if you start with children, and I see children in school learning healthy habits, and if you find all the other places where you can exert some influence, it may go a long way. The Viticultural Center has their arrival day and other events, and they make a point of trying to do heart healthy stuff. So if all the organizations go out of the way to do this, it will all add up. But at the same time, the biggest impact will come from political, social, economic. People have done things like put heavier taxes on cigarettes, maybe sugar sweetened pop and that kind of stuff. So it's an all-in society approach where we have to decide that everybody who has some impact on this will work at whatever level they wish to encourage each other. And the last point I want to make is there's a thing called network science, which says that within a network of people, if you influence somebody, that person influences somebody else, and you can influence people at a distance who you don't know. And the Indian community is very tightly knit and has tremendous networks. And if you start introducing things within these networks, it will spread according to network science and spread wider and wider. So I would encourage more of that.
Indeed. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Pritika has asked a question in the chat, which I would like to throw out, and I think perhaps Dr. Raizada can probably address this first. In your opinion, how does the prenatal growth period and birth weight influence cardiometabolic disease risk? Do you think the association is heightened among Gurmit descendants? And she's referring here to the Barker hypothesis. Dr. Raizada, can we get a response, please?
Has he left? I'm not seeing his name
You're
in
not
the
seeing him?
dashboard.
I can take that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I had a distinct privilege and honor of meeting Dr. Barker in Toronto when he gave a lecture. And prior to that, I was told about Dr. Barker by Professor Srinath Reddy, who was the founding director of Public Health Foundation of India. And around those times when we talked about it, it didn't seem like it made a lot of sense that what happened to you before you're born will influence things later. But it has been shown scientifically, and the person who asked the question, I thank you for that question, and you must know more about this than many of us, is that I had a slide showing prenatal influences. And yes, Dr. Barker has shown that there are influences to the fetus, to the baby before they're born, in the environment, etc., that lead to adult diseases. hypertension, diabetes, all kinds of other things. So therefore, not only is the early childhood very important for the development of a child, but prenatal, and therefore more effort should be made for good prenatal care.
Great, thank you. I'm trying to find a question here that Chand raised, which was, I think, related. So Chand has asked, does the South Asian phenotype, genotype, or both have anything to do with why these diseases are so common in the Indian diaspora?
That is true to some extent, but I want to believe that the greatest amount of influence to cardiovascular disease is lifestyle itself, that people get accustomed to using in terms of the sedentary lifestyle, the food, and all the different things. That has a greater contribution. According to the slide by the entire study there, 50% is really from food alone. So you could imagine when you add on smoking, alcohol, and other things to that, it's going to go up much more. And the influence from the genetic part, it may be just a small amount. I'm not sure the exact percentage, but it may be just a small amount. I don't know if Ram Bihar want to comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can make a few comments. We've been asked this question often, and there's a lot of research. People have tended to say South Asian ethnicity is South Asian genes causing trouble. But first of all, there's no such thing as a South Asian gene. South Asians differ among the South Asians as much as between different ethnic groups. There is no single gene or combination of genes that lead to heart disease or excess heart disease among the Indian or South Asian community. It's multifactorial, as was said, it's dynamic, it's changing, and everybody is different. We have people who live to 100, people get heart attacks at 20 and 30. More than 50% is diet and lifestyle, environmental. There are a few things, biochemical things, from inflammation, lipoprotein A, and a few other things that are medical and biochemical that Indians have more than others. For the risk factors, generally speaking, Indians may have higher level of some of these risk factors, but it is nothing predetermined. When Indians live in the country, in the villages, they have low risk. When they move to the city, they get higher risk, weight and waste. When they move abroad, it's higher. So it's a combination of everything, and genetics. The way I look at it is, there's something about the way Indians move abroad, migrate, and so on, in the culture, etc., that make them more sensitive to the risk factors. So whereas others might get into trouble, we get into trouble more, but there's no single genetic thing.
Interesting observation there. Thank you very much for that. Chand is also raising another question, and I want to bring Dr. Jagnarayan into the conversation. How is a person's natural constitution or prakriti affected by lifestyle, dietary choices, and financial constraints?
I think he has blackout in Guyana. So electrical, so he's not here.
Dr. Jagnarayan. Okay, so we only have Dr. Rambihar and Dr. Bahal here.
Yes, because I have not seen Dr. Munish. So only
Okay.
two speakers are left.
All right. So let me bring in Baba, and Baba can make his comments, ask his questions, and probably address this one from Chand as well. Dr. Shadanand, go ahead and unmute, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. You
Okay.
can turn on. Yes.
Namaste, Ram Ram Salam, and we have had a very nice Christmas, and now we are going to 2026. So in this changing cosmic process, we have to learn something. The first thing is, I have listened to all the speakers, And I think one person, last one you had about the South Indians, sir. I think you are in screen. I'm seeing. That is very right. Every person belongs to a type of bioenergetic, and that is creating when the conception begins. So the prenatal development in the pregnancy time of the mother, we have to study that because the constitution, the prakriti, you do understand what the prakriti is? The prakriti, every person has his own dosha prakriti, bat, pit or kaph. And when in a family, the same parents, the biological, the father and mother is the same, but they have 7 children. And 2 of them, every time they are getting ill. Why? So, and we have to learn at first what is the dosha prakriti, the bio nature of this individual, and when begins it, and thereafter you have to look to 3 dimensions: the lifestyle, the type of food, what are you going to eat and when, and the are you alive being sitting or working in the office. These 3 things is very important to know to prevent the illness chronicle and to cure them. Well, I have heard a lot of things today, and I think that is a very interesting thing to know. Be first well known what is the bio nature of this patient. And I think the Ayurvedic and the Unani science, they are masters in classification and analysis. So that I'm not going to give you lecture today, Salima, Muhammad, Kumar Mahabir, Shakira, and all audience. I want to wish you a very, very fruitful, sound, prosperous, and healthy 2029. Dhanyavad. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Baba. And I hope you continue to enjoy the festivities. We'll take a question now from Dr. Ramuta for comment. Dr. Ramuta, please go ahead and unmute.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah,
All right.
welcome.
Okay, yes. I must say that I learned a lot from this conference, and I'm impressed with the knowledge that is available. But what I'm concerned about, I've been hearing this same lecture for the last 50 years. We know what the problem is. We know what the genetic input, the environment, everything. We have the knowledge, but we don't seem to have the ability to get people to change their ways. You see, we think information going to make the change. Information really don't make much change. You need inspiration. To tell a young person, well, you're going to get diabetes, you get stroke and so on, they won't take you on. I have tried it, it has worked for me. What I find, I have to convince people they must love themselves. Convince them they have to look good. And for them to look good, they have to have a good BMI. For them to look good, they have to eat the right foods. So we have to inspire them to look good, and they will see the reward. But there's no point telling a young person, well, you'll get diabetes, heart disease, stroke, all these things. It doesn't resonate with them. So I think the medical fraternity has to focus on communication skills. You have to convert your patient from a worshiper of food to a worshiper of beauty. that will appeal. And I think we have to change the focus from providing pure information and statistics to develop strategies in communication to get our patient to do what we want them to do. I know that sounds impossible. Some people say they are doing it, but the patient who hadn't. We blame the patient. But sometimes we have to ask a hard question, why it is our patient not taking our advice? And we have to try to find the answer for that. And if we get the answer, we'll probably motivate them in a way to make the necessary change we are hoping that they will make. And that's my comment, and thank you. Bye.
You know, you always stump me, Dr. Ramuta. I'm just remembering here that walk in Suriname, and you took over everybody. At your age, nobody would even guess how old you are. And with your level of energy, what do you do to inspire others in your practice?
Well, to inspire people to do what to do, you have to be the messenger. Has to be the message. You can't be overweight and having a pot belly and tell people to lose weight. That won't make much sense. You have to be a reflection of your message. And that's one of the ways that you could motivate people. But of course, I wouldn't suggest that because, it's a difficult thing to do. The average doctor don't have the time to do it. And I appreciate that. You understand? But we have to find ways and means of getting our patient to do the right thing. And if you eat the right food, you must get the right weight. You eat the wrong food, you must get the wrong weight. You can't take the wrong road and end up in the right place. And you can't eat the wrong food and get the right weight. You have to inspire them. You have to in other words, you have to see it like you have to be a religious speaker, a religious person. You understand? It's not talk, it's more inspiration. You have to inspire them. And how you inspire them is how you yourself behave, your attitude toward eating and drinking. Because I tell you something, when I go to social functions, a lot of people I know they come to see me, but to really see what I'm eating. And sometimes I mislead them. I eat a little extra for them for they to feel comfortable. But I say it's not an easy problem. It's really the we have to get the curve going downward. It's going up and up and up. My 50 years of practice, everything getting worse. We talking more, nothing happening. And we had to find a way of getting our patient to do what we want them to do. And that is a big challenge that we have. That is the challenge of the medical industry in the 21st century. And that will be a challenge for quite some time to come. We probably have to create something called wellness clinic. We take people and before they get sick, and institute certain measures and view them and check their progress and then publish it, and so that will probably help inspire people to do the right thing. But right now, the medical profession really focus on taking care of ills. We don't really talk about preventative medicine. We mention it, but we don't say what it is all about. So we have to find more time, even in medical school, to teach our new graduates what to do to motivate our population. So that's it. Have I answered your question?
Yep. Kumu Gupta on now. Kumu, go ahead and unmute your mic, please, Kumu.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, thank you. What a phenomenal few hours we have spent here. Amazing. Very good speakers. Excellent, from the US. to hear that part of the world is amazing. So my question is that are we so focused on these things, especially for older adults today, because we know more? Because, like, for example, I know this is not actual definition of dementia, but something simple like, if somebody, we used to say, oh yeah, Dadaji, he's getting old, he forgot where he put his keys. So is that, I don't think that is what is called dementia, but what I'm saying is that these things have been happening for a long time, but it's in our generation now because we know so much that prevention and being alerted about these things is becoming more and more into focus. So is that what is happening?
Interesting question. Is sensitization why we are now focused on the data? Or paying attention to the data is what is giving us the impression that there is a tremendous problem, when in fact it may have been so in the past. But Dr. Bahal spoke about the condition of persons in the Indian diaspora from indentureship days and how those things have changed. Dr. Bahal, what is your view?
I didn't quite get a question there. My mind just slipped there, but we know for the matter of fact that cardiovascular risks are increasing yearly. And the facts show also from my little study on acute myocardial infarction that the Indo-Trinidadian male, and I'll see Dr. Ramota's point about having a role model as the post, but there seems to be something unique in the Indo community, which affecting predominantly the male, then the female, and of course, the Afro female in the same Trinidad and Tobago have 4 times less the risk than the Indo-Trinidadian male. So there's something unique in our community which we need to address. And I feel that has to do with our culture, which is partly from food, from sedentary lifestyle, and all the other things there. And our solution has to kind of intervene, besides looking at making your body beautiful, because some of us can't, but we can be healthy by making sure that we have, say, no food after the prayers. Let's give them a little 2 biscuits and go home. Try other things that make them feel, look, you could come here and enjoy yourself without a plate of food at 10 o'clock in the night. Try other cultural things which could avoid excessive food eating and more outgoing or sporting activities. And that is where I feel we may need to intervene with those type of approaches for the Indo community. All of us, but for the Indo people who are being affected mostly.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Pritika, go ahead with your question, please.
I can make a comment after.
If I may interject a bit, with your permission, host.
Oh, thank you. You're here. Good.
Yeah, I'm having some difficulties on my end. Just to add a little bit more to what Dr. Mahabal had actually mentioned. And I heard a prior speakers talk about wellness clinic. So what is currently happening in Guyana is that we have tried a wellness clinic, and we have seen that persons are not attending the wellness clinic, especially in the Indian communities. The clinic was actually, the females were the beneficiary of most of these clinics, not the males. And what we found is that if we open both tiers of the healthcare system, which is the private as well as the public sector, and we allow them to do screening, voluntary screening, and then they follow up with a GP, we found that we're having better results. So what the government has done was to actually do something which is called a universal healthcare voucher. So it allows the persons in society to accept this voucher, and they can go and screen for diabetes. They can do their CBC, they can do their kidney function, their liver function, they can do a PSA, all within the range of $50 US. And we have seen since its implementation it has grown tremendously over the last 2 years. I think alone in 2025, we had over 100,000 tests that was done by persons in Guyana. That's talking about all the 10 administrative regions. Because if we are trying to get data and we are trying to get our population to do something, to make a mark, it starts with them, and we are letting them use this as a marker. So what we found is that persons are now, especially the males, are now heading to get counseling. They're now heading to get some advice. And we are seeing that you have a lot of persons that are walking out there that have erectile issues that are diabetics. And we are now being able to track them to improve their lives. So these are little things that's happening. And the area where you talked about the preventative medicine aspect of things. So preventative medicine actually takes forms. One, can screening the
It seems to be, Dr. Jagnaran, we're not hearing you. There
Yeah,
seems to be a problem with his
yeah. It seems to
internet
have
again.
yeah.
I can make some comments here.
Sure, Dr. Rambihar, go ahead, please.
Yeah, make a few comments from the previous few speakers. One, inspiration is obviously good, and I commend the doctor for all he's done and for being an inspiration. But many people are subject to external influences, commercial and others, social, that outweigh the inspiration. And therefore, this has to be seen from a different perspective. Rather than the individual or community inspiration aspect, this is what's called a systems problem. There are many systems in play that are fixed, that perpetuate themselves and generate ill health among the community. That's one. So it must be addressed at a system, political and social and other levels. Number two, it is not just a problem of Indians and Indians having premature heart disease and diabetes. It is a problem that exists throughout the world, and all ethnic groups, white people and everybody else, have a certain percentage who have premature heart disease and diabetes, only it's higher in the Indian community. If you look at East Europe, into transition in economics, they have the highest rate, not Indians. So it's not an Indian problem. It's mostly a social, cultural, historical problem. Now, the question with regard to, is it only that we are aware of it now? Things change. And the first report about excess heart disease in Indians was in 1959 from 2 reports in Singapore. And that raised awareness, and people started looking. And from around 1990, we became interested. In 1980, Britain became interested, South Africa, and other places in different times after 59. And then you would think that that article we wrote in 1990 about excess heart disease, that 30 years later, it'd be better. The Journal of American College of Cardiology talks about excess heart disease and some South Asian heart disease statistics. It's the same because of population growth, aging, etc. Now, 70% of heart disease in the world is in India and the diaspora. So it's more. And the last comment I'd like to make is, it is not just Indian males. Indian women are just at risk, only that they come in 10 years later in general, but in the Indian community, maybe 5 years. But we have done research going back to 1990 with heart attacks, showing that Indian women have the same, the global research on heart diseases, Indian women are affected the same, except becoming a few years later. And in addition to that, women in general tend not to be treated equally for their symptoms, heart disease, and receive the same amount of care. So we have to go out of our way to identify and treat women in general and Indian women in particular for premature heart disease and diabetes.
Some sobering comments there, I have to say. Thank you very much for bringing that last fact in. Pritika, would you like to make your comment or ask your question? Please unmute your mic.
Thank you. Namaskaram. My name is Shratika. I am from New Zealand, originally from Fiji, and I lead the Fiji Heart Study. And I really appreciate this forum. It's incredible to hear all of the speakers, and particularly Dr. Rambihar. I tautoko what you're talking about here. I agree with all of your comments. But I would like to add that the unique history that we have as Gurmit descendants is one that is so understudied from a genetic perspective. And let me qualify that in that, sorry, my children are at home. You'll hear them in the background. We know a lot about the human genome. In 2003, when the human genome was released, it was one of the greatest milestones for medicine, except it's largely representative of European ancestries. It is not actually very representative of ethnic communities. To date, the representation for Indian genomes in there is very poor. We don't even have a proper reference Indian genome. And I suppose what we don't fully grasp or understand is the unique genetic drivers, the monogenic genetic drivers that are driving our risk. So, for example, in New Zealand, Fijian Indians form 2% of the population, yet we form over 20% of cases under 40 years of age for heart attacks. And when you look at these families, it is independent of the standard modifiable risk factors. They are not obese, they are not diabetic, they are not smokers, they are not alcoholic. They are largely tall and skinny people, and there are 3 or 4 generations that are affected in these families. There is a very specific characteristic genetic trait that seems to be driving this risk in these families. And because we have no representation in research to date, particularly in genetic studies, this is so underappreciated. And I suppose if I can draw an even larger picture, I think what this is related to is the fact that we come from very specific regions in India where, under British rule, there had been over 100 years of famine. And these specific regions are then selected from for the indenture labor route. And Fiji is a very unique example of being the last, most isolated, most remote Gurmit colony, right? When we are brought here, there is another further 41 years of severe famine that our people survive. And so we suspect that actually what may have happened is that there is a genetic bottleneck, right? I suppose the people who were surviving on fewer calories were surviving for a reason. Maybe they had some genetic advantage to survive. And maybe it was a trait that allowed us to store fat in atypical regions so that when we are in scarcity, we can draw on that resource. But that same trait has now relatively become more abundant in the surviving population. And that same trait is what we think is driving our heightened risk for these very, very early, very premature heart attacks. It is one hypothesis that we are testing, right? But it's completely understudied because we have no representation in research to date. So, I suppose I'm just trying to offer another alternative view to how much our history, our unique pyramid history, contributes to our health, independent of all the other standard modifiable risk factors that definitely are at play for, our community. And I mean, you've touched on the unique risk for women. We see when they encounter gestational diabetes or as they hit menopause, perimenopause, where estrogen levels, which are protective against heart disease, start going down, we see this massive increase in cardiovascular events and diabetes for women. These are things that are completely understudied for our populations that must be studied more. We just need 2 cents worth in as well in the conversation. I think it's so important that you are doing this and facilitating this forum. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, thank you, Pritika. Why don't you, before you go, why don't you just let us know what it is that you do?
Yeah, so I lead the Fiji Heart Study. It is the very first genetic study of premature coronary artery disease in New Zealand. That is for peoples of Fiji. My background is in studying genetics and epigenetics, hence my question around the Barker hypothesis, because we know that, for example, if I give you the example of my own family, while I was not exposed to famine directly and my mother was not exposed to famine directly, when my grandmother was pregnant with my mum, she was exposed to famine. And when my mum was forming in her womb, the eggs that made me were already formed in that womb as well. Right? So in that one hit, in that one famine exposure, all 3 generations are affected. And that primes every single baby subsequent to that to be, I suppose, more
So
susceptible.
Pritika, if I may intervene, don't give away too much because I think you are the speaker next Sunday when we deal with the heart health. So
Pritika, but we had Pritika on before, didn't we?
I have not spoken on the program. I've probably asked questions before, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So she's one of our speakers next week.
Right. So the
On heart
conversation
health.
will continue then. Thank you very much for opening that up and for sharing that though. And I'd like to just get comments from both Dr. Bahal, Dr. Rambihar, I think Sawan Jagnarayan, Dr. Jagnarayan just came back in, I believe. Can our doctors please just give their final comments in response to what Pritika has raised and overall? Thank you.
Yeah, 1 minute, please, because of time.
Dr. Bahal?
Okay. Thank you very much again. I think it was a very productive forum for me. I learned a lot. Basically, I think that our Indo community has a lot of work to do to kind of really include all the different influences that they may have to intervene with Dr. Rambutan idea, the lifestyle, all the other things. It's so multidimensional. We have a big task in our hand, but it's still we can try our bit to make it at least decrease the amount of cardiovascular risk.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Rambihar?
Congratulations to all the speakers. I learned a lot from this. And just a couple of quick comments. Come back to the thought about inspiration. I talked to Dr. Mabir about getting a speaker for motivation, because this is an issue of change for the individual and community, and you need to learn the science of change. And you have a motivational speaker to encourage and teach people how to change and how to change a community. And organization. The second issue is, come back to, it's a systemic approach, systems approach in addition to individual. And the last comment, yes, I agree with completely that genomic study is necessary and essential to try to unravel this. But currently, my understanding is there's no such thing as a South Asian or Indian gene, but there's tremendous overlap. And there are many other communities that have premature heart disease and diabetes. So there may be genes that cause premature heart disease spread across everyone, and for some unknown reason, it hits the Indian community more. And our concept has been, for some reason, it is what's called nonlinear, exponential and nonlinear and sensitive, and for reasons yet unknown. And we have to approach prevention, I think, in that manner.
Excellent point. Thank you.
Dr. Rambiha, the person you mentioned, just remind him or confirm that we want him to speak next Sunday, 1 week from today,
All
same
right, I
time.
shall do that.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Jagnarine, your closing comments, please. You're muted.
Oh, thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you for having me on the program. I'm sorry over the technical difficulties I'm having on my end, but it was actually an eye-opener, and I'm really happy that we could have shared information from the diaspora, and most of all, our strategic countries may have their own plan, and they want to have their own ideas of how they are pushing things. But forums like these are important because we need to raise the awareness. As we start raising the awareness, we can get persons to buy in, and getting them to buy in, they will act, and they will act in a manner that will benefit the targeted population. So maybe what we should do in future is probably get persons who are influential in making decisions in the hierarchy of society, so that we can be able to be targeted within the Indo diaspora, or the origins within the different countries, because most of these informations are out there, and we as politicians, they have to make those changes and put the financial necessary put to make that change holistically. Because we could talk here, but what happened to the common man? The common man in society who goes and buy a Chinese burger that is now available right in his community. So we have to make this little change so that we can have the necessary persons to do the necessary. With that, I would like to say thank you for having me here, and look forward for new things ahead. Thanks.
Excellent. What is a Chinese burger?
So we have right now, I didn't get to speak a lot because of the technical problem I was having here. So we have in Guyana, we have Chinese fast food chains in almost every community along the coast. They're hitting into the hinterland. Same, we have KFC. They're giving KFC a run for the money. They have Gambo, they have New Yorker, they have Tasty. So you have different ones in different community, and they are making the very same thing in their own style via Chinese meat, a Chinese recipe. And you find that persons are hitting there because it's closer to home, it's easier to reach, and it's cheaper. So that is one of the things that is actually plaguing our society. So when it comes to our rapid push in Guyana to look at chronic diseases, ischemic heart disease, we are investing quite a lot. Currently, the government of Guyana is investing quite a lot to ensure that they educate people, they have services that are available, and they ensure that these services are targeted. I saw one of the questions somebody raised about within the chat about social services for elderly. So there is a framework. There is a framework that is going to be rolled out soon for social services for elderly, which is going to be in part with health, social services, and they're going to help them to have a digital platform also. So now, instead of you going to receive your pension via the post office, you can actually get your pension deposit right to the bank. You can have access to it. So all of these things are within the framework in helping senior citizen. The EMR is also going to come into place, where they're going to also have counseling being done for persons, right at home. So within the pipeline, to have that adequate reach for our population, I believe the framework is going to be rolled out within the next 5 to 6 years. That will benefit Guyanese. but not just Indo-Guyanese, everyone, both urban and rural. Because currently we have the largest telemedicine platform in the Caribbean, and it's reaching to our hinterland communities that is making very much, making a big change for them. Because if you look at, let me just look at this. The Amerindian population also has a high starch diet. They're also having high diabetes, but nobody never looked at this population. So Guyana, in its sense, has 6 ethnicity that they have to actually target and work to ensure that everybody benefits within this natural resource wealth that they have.
Thank you very much for raising that. I think you've reiterated the importance of using a biopsychosocial approach to fixing some of those problems. But in that, let's not, maybe we need to be reminded of some points that were raised by the other doctors. It's so important, for example, when senior citizens can go into a bank, it's a social outing for them that many of them do not get an opportunity to do. So once a month when they have to go and get their pensions in the bank, they look forward to it. They go and they meet all their old friends, they go and they talk to all the attendants in the bank and all that sort of thing. When you put in the pensions into the accounts, then it becomes easy for them to use an ATM card, give it to one of their children and say, okay, go and take this out or go and make a payment. Now you can make your payments because they are chip cards. You just have to tap the card at the pharmacy and you can get them their medication and all that. So it all boils back down to making it a balancing act. And that's our challenge as we go forward. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much. It has been an extraordinarily enlightening panel discussion today, and I want to thank all of our speakers. I also want to thank all of our participants, both on YouTube as well as here in the Zoom room. And thank you all for being here. I wish everyone a very happy and healthy 2026. And Shakir, thank you for, again, all of the weeks that you've put in with us. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Han. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend and to participate. It has been an extraordinary program today. So our topic next Sunday will be heart health in the Indian diaspora. So we want to thank our planning team led by Dr. Kumar Mahabir and Shalima Mohammed, our IT consultants, Daryl Grantham and Navin Mangal, and Daryl again for designing the poster. So please visit, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to see all our past recordings. I am Shakira Mohammed from Trinidad and Tobago saying goodbye. May God bless you all. Dhanyavad.